All right. Greetings, my creative community. How are you doing today? I am super excited today because we have a special guest. She is the first guest for the year for 2021. And for those that are new, I come on hello, On, how are you? I come on every Friday at 1 o'clock Central Standard Time to see how you guys are doing and see what projects you guys are working on, and to just encourage everyone to continue creating and moving forward and just making. But the last Friday of every month, starting this new year, we have a special guest. And today I have Eileen Johnson, and it's going to be her first time coming on. So I think hello, Kathy, Samina. And we are waiting for Eileen Johnson to join on. So it's her first time. There she is. Let me get Eileen on. Yay! Okay, so now we're waiting for Eileen to accept. Okay. All right, so yes, we have Eileen Johnson coming on live today with us. My first special guest for 2021. And we are going to be talking. Let's see. We're still waiting for Eileen. It's her first time. So I think she's. Okay. Hi, Ronnie. How are you? A lot of our Couture Sewing friends are joining. Okay. Still waiting for Eileen. Okay, let me try again. Let me get her in. Let's see, where is she? There you go. All right, yes, okay. Here we go.
Hello.
I think are you able to move your camera?
Yes. Hang on.
Yay, so we got connected with Eileen. Yay. Thank you so much.
There we go. Yay. I had to enable my microphone and camera. So thank you for that patience.
Oh, no problem at all. Thank you for joining me. I know you have to work following. So, I just want to thank you so much for joining us today and for making the time to come on and share a little bit about couture. Actually, introduce us to the sewing world of couture, because that's what you did for me. Again, everybody, this is Eileen Johnson, and she is the person that opened the doors to the couture sewing world for me. We first met in 2011, and I actually heard about the Sewing Fashionistas through Ronnie, who got to join us today. Hello, Ronnie. And she is the one that introduced me to the Sewing Fashionistas, and Eileen was one of the guest speakers, and she was up there teaching some couture sewing techniques, and also told me about the Susan Calgie class, which I attended for the first time in 2012. So she is here to kind of give us all an introduction to the couture sewing world. So thank you, Eileen, again, for joining us today. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and, some of your other hobbies besides sewing?
Oh, absolutely. First of all, thank you so much for inviting me here today, Anne. It's an absolute thrill, pleasure. It's causing me to stretch out of my comfort zone, but in a really good way. I love to learn new things, so this is certainly leading me down that path. So for those of you that don't know me, let's see, by degree, I'm an engineer, so I may have already lost half of you right now. But I can say sewing has been one of my passions for almost my whole life. And for many years, it was very secret. So it's been such a thrill to learn more about sewing, particularly couture sewing, reading about it in Threads magazine, taking classes, and then helping groups form and being part of sewing communities. So beyond that, let's see, I work full time. We can talk all about that, adapting to COVID by being full time, work at home. So I love this opportunity to say, instead of living at work, right, I'm actually putting in strong boundaries so I can share things that I've made, techniques, and my love of sewing. But I also love art. My favorite place to hang out, if it's not sewing, is at the art museum. And I just want to give you all a shout out to visit the Kinder. It is extraordinary. And if you want a companion, I'd be happy to do that with you. So if you see some of the things on my wall, they're real live art. So as my son says, we're well curated in clothes and in what you get to see on the wall behind me.
So thank you for sharing a little bit about yourself. How did you get started in sewing?
How did I get started? Well, I got started probably like many of you is I had a Barbie, right? Okay, everybody raise your hand. Who had a Barbie or more than one? And so I would just make her clothes, right, from scraps. And I can share with you that my mom was an absolute, just phenomenal Barbie clothes maker. And if you want to do another session on that, I have my last Barbie and I still have all her clothes. And she was just phenomenal at taking like scraps of lace from a nightgown and turning it into this ball gown. So my Barbie has lots of dress clothes and only one work outfit. And then otherwise, growing up, I was the oldest of 5 children, 4 girls and 1 boy. So what do you think? When sewing came around, I found a way to, shall we say, trade chores for sewing. And after that, that worked really well. But then that inspired my sisters to want to learn how to sew themselves.
Did you make you made your sister's wedding dress, right? Or was that?
I did. I did make my sister's wedding dress. And at my wedding, I made my wedding dress, but now I can say I barely knew what I was doing. But I still wore it. It didn't fall off. And I made all my bridesmaids' dresses and my mom's dress. So I was burned out on sewing after that. But I've been married 35 years. So, I guess it worked.
Congratulations. Well,
thank you.
Everyone that's new, my name is Ann and I'm with Boutique Bridal and Lifestyle. And I have Eileen Johnson on today and she's going to give us a brief introduction to couture sewing. And so you briefly touched on how you started sewing. How did you start couture sewing?
Well, I would say one thing about myself that I recently have just re-explored is I absolutely have a love of learning. So I sewed for the most part for practical reasons, right? But more than anything, it started to be aspirational. If I wanted something, I was going to figure out how to do that. And I can say that Threads magazine has been just an incredible resource in getting introduced to that. And Threads magazine led me specifically to read articles about Susan Calgie. And then I was fortunate enough to attend one of her classes in Colorado, which is where I'm from originally. And my husband and I had family there. And it was easy to we can stay at your parents. You can go do this with your dad and mom and, brothers. And all you have to do is drive me, to Boulder every day to go to this class. And little did I know that that would be a rabbit hole that I fell into. I mean, first of all, in that class, I reconnected with someone I actually went to high school with. So, right, anytime you go to a sewing class, there are no strangers. There's just friends that you haven't met or maybe you haven't seen in a while. And then after that, I basically, when you spend a week stitching, working on something with that much work, you get to know everyone in the room. And I started working on the instructor, like, what would it take to get you to come to Texas? And she told me, well, I have to look at my calendar and, all of these things. But, if maybe you could get 6 people to commit. Well, I went home and I found 12. So, she came and she did that for us for 7 years.
And I got to for classes. So that was really neat. That was after you introduced it in the Sew Fashionistas, which is organized and hosted by Roz, by the way. Yes, you mentioned Susan Calgi's class, and I got to attend. I have never met so many inspiring ladies that were just very intense when it came to sewing and the couture techniques. I actually felt out of place at first just because you guys were so intense, and it was actually the coolest thing to see how, of high importance and fit was, which I knew was important, but just the techniques you guys used to achieve that. So can you go into a little bit more detail about, I've heard of couture, like couture for all this, but you brought in couture sewing. You introduced couture sewing to me. So can you give us a little bit, explain a little bit about couture sewing? So
absolutely, I'd love to, Anne. So to keep me straight, I went to Wikipedia, right? Is that where we all start? So couture, the word itself literally translates from French as dressmaking, sewing, or needlework. But the word is been very much exploded and used in lots of different ways. You may also hear the word bespoke, Bespoke, and that's used in terms of tailoring. But where we're heading is also in French, we call haute couture, Haute, and that means sewing at the highest level. So if we equate that to cooking, right? If we're talking about cooking at the highest level, let's ask the audience, what would that mean if I'm cooking at the highest level?
Yeah, I couldn't help you there because I.
Okay, well, let's just say that's open is that, ingredients, right? We want the freshest, most quality ingredients. It may require special tools, certain kinds of pans. I know if you go visit the Bradens, they have all kinds of timers and every kind of tool. And then techniques. And even though we love, right, high quality cooking, that may not be something that we can have every day. But when we do have it, it's a celebration, it's a special time. So haute couture and sewing really falls along that same area. It's very much focused on fit. And I know you've had earlier guests that talk about fit. And, so that's a whole new topic. And in haute couture, when you see these like the Chanel house and all of these wonderful designers, they're making it particularly for one client. But I would say fit is what drove me to learn more about couture. A lot of it's done by hand, which some of you on this audience might be, oh no, I don't want to hear that. But trust me, it's just the most extraordinarily relaxing efforts. And even though it seems like you're spending a lot of time doing it by hand, you actually save time because you did it and it works correctly. And the best part about couture, because I've read this on Instagram, so it must be true, is, for people who love to sew, we really have two hobbies, right? Sewing and buying fabrics. These are two separate areas that we are extremely good at. But just like quality food, we're looking for the best, quality fabrics and underlinings for this garment, because if you are going to invest your time, make it worthwhile, and that and I'm telling you, it takes some getting used to, right? It's just like life. When you first buy a house or a new car, you think, oh my God, I paid this for my house, You buy a new car. Sometimes with fabrics, that can happen as well.
Carrie says she finds Samina's like hot cuisine. Carrie's like, I find it meditative. Yes. Ronnie says curating that. Yes. Aren't we always curating?
Yes, we are. It's a highly, highly developed skill.
Yeah.
So we go back to our definition. Haute couture is high-end fashion that is constructed by hand from start to finish, made from high quality, expensive, often unusual fabric, and sewn with extreme attention to detail and finished by the most experienced and capable sewers, often using time-consuming hand-executed techniques. Well, I would say that's what I strive for. It's high-end fashion to me because it's what fits my body, my personality, and what works for me. And so that's how I equate it to the high end.
Yeah, I mean, we've mentioned before that all of our bodies are so unique that, ever since I learned some of the couture sewing techniques, I could see the difference in the fit and the form. And you talked about function as well, before. So, yes. I noticed that you have some of your couture projects behind you.
I do.
I'm sure we all would love to see it, right, ladies? Everyone, our creative community, we want to see some of Eileen's projects.
Okay, well, good news is today everything I'm going to show you is actually finished. So that's a big milestone. And I did my best to edit, and you can help kind of keep an eye on time. So what I'm going to show you today is just a kind of progression of garments I've made. And then she doesn't want you to leave today without learning something. So I'm just going to put the word snap out there. And so we're going to be talking about snaps indirectly.
So, fit, form, and function, all good points. Yes.
Exactly. And our teacher always loved to talk about the engineering of how garments fit and work. And so, that she had me in engineering, right? And when I was talking to prepare for this, I said, well, this is the first couture garment I ever made. It's 4-ply silk. It's olive colored. I bought it from G Streets in Washington, D.C., and it was made for my in-laws' 50th wedding anniversary. But what I'm most excited about, and let me see how we do on the camera, is I was reading Threads magazine. And so for those of you with Thread archives, you can tell us. So I don't know, can you see that? I actually hand stitched the zipper in and beaded it. And so I just want to say it's a very simple silhouette. And just something as easy, well, I shouldn't say easy, but anyway, just adding beads just really elevated it to extraordinary limits. And I would say this is at least 10 years old, but I've worn it through thick and thin. It has big seam allowances. I've taken it in, taken it out, and it's underlined in silk organza like we're supposed to. My sewing buddies will love this. Look, got the shoulder dart, The only thing is I don't know where I was, but in our class we never used invisible zippers, but somehow I did all this work, with an invisible zipper. and I did the stitching of the zipper and the beads at the same time, which we're not supposed to do, but hey.
So much fabric says, oh, and the nurse says, wow. Beautiful.
Well, thank you. And I want to give a shout out to the American Sewing Guild, because my neighborhood group helped me fit my toile. That's what we love. That's another French word for getting it to fit. And so if you can't take a Couture Sewing class, American Sewing Guild neighborhood group was also a great opportunity. So then I thought I'd show you the real eye candy. I'll start over here, and that's lace garments. So here is a Chantilly lace garment. It's a one shoulder, let me move that chair. It's a one shoulder top.
I remember.
And okay, she remembers, right? So we have to give a shout out to So Much Fabric. She had a buyer that found this lace, and it's just extraordinary. So it's French. If you can see that, you have this floral pattern, but then you also have like different size holes. I mean, can you all see that? Right in the lace. So there's a lot of air in that, and that gives you some challenges of how to work with that, which is fun. The other thing it has is a hand stitch zipper in here and a dart. And I have to say, when I first started couture sewing, it was very aspirational, kind of wishing I could wear these kinds of garments. But I want to encourage everyone, make clothes for the life you want to live. And as silly as that sounds, my husband won a contest where he works, and we were able to go to a trip to the Ritz-Carlton in Naples, Florida, and there was a gala for a special award he won, and I wore this and a black skirt and was absolutely positively the best dressed person there. You know that, right?
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And getting to work.
Okay, we got to keep going. And then this is probably my most aspirational thing, and I know it's hard to see, but it's a skirt, and you say, well, it may not come across here because it's made to fit me, but I just want to say this is the most exquisite lace I've ever seen in my entire life. I love that it has floral but geometric. So that actually ties to, one of the things I love is I love geometry. I love structure, order, and things that come off of that. So a lace skirt, I think, is a wonderful couture sewing project when we did it in class. I'm sure Kathy Spain, is she on here today? She actually got hers done in class. So that was always something we all prided ourselves on. Well, that's she's setting the pace. We're going to get done.
Gorgeousness.
Thank you. So I have to say this was one of those fabrics I'd never spent as much on this ever, but it was exquisite, and I needed a new stove, but I just waited. I waited a year to do that. But I think it was worth it. And I made it for my husband's and I 30th wedding anniversary. So we just celebrated 35th. But again, classic. This I think I'll be laid out in 30 years from now. So talking about snaps when you work with lace. So can you see that everything here shows a smooth coverage, and snaps are used to cover the lace so that you don't see how you get in or out. So there's a function of something really ordinary making it extraordinary.
Yes. Kathy,
okay.
It's a stove.
Do what? Absolutely. Absolutely. We can sleep when we're dead.
Maybe one more item, Eileen.
Okay. I just want to point out that, nothing's wasted, right? So I made a dress with more of that lace. And this dress pattern is exactly what I'm wearing right here. And this dress, just with a new sleeve. And the only other thing I do have to give a shout out since Ronnie's on is, and the lace skirt pattern, we could make a skirt. And so this is the exact same skirt pattern. The difference is this extraordinary Carolina Herrera jacquard that we use. And you can see that we use both sides, what we call the fashion side and the wrong side. But look how awesome we did on all the pattern matching. Now, you don't see that in ready to wear. And we had a great time. We actually made 3 of these at one time. And I just want to give a shout out to Ronnie. If she has the most extraordinary gift of what I call spatial relationships. She could literally see that needs to go over there to this, you know, to cut all these out at the same time. So how are we? Are we catching up?
Yeah, we're doing good. So since you got to show us a few of your pieces, can you share with us for 3 style aesthetics? What are your, you know, that Roz taught us to do?
That's right. Roz sure taught us to do. Well, I have to say, I like classic wear. I guess that's what, this is a princess themed dress. So I have to say, I love making solid garments that then I can show off a scarf, jewelry, something handmade, or, you know, very much global. So I guess it would be a classic traveler. And because I work, I think I always want to buy jackets, which I realized it's, you know, because you're more in a leadership position, but more than anything, I love this idea of a uniform, you know, whatever that is while we're working at home, if that's a t-shirt and a pair of pants or a skirt and a top, but then, you know, being able to add that personality that's you know, something that you've made is just makes me feel like $1,000,000.
So where do you find your inspiration, like to create your, you know, your clothing? Where do you get it from?
I would say it comes from art. I mean, that, as I said, sharing that other thing. I love to scroll, as I know many do, you know, net a porter with, oh, I could do that, you know, or, but I think it's the more I get to know myself and my lifestyle, it's what do I want to wear to recognize that occasion, but then how can I reinvent it? I mean, it's just like, I just want to say, yes, I dressed up for y'all. I want to say that. But then I thought I couldn't, I'm at work, I'd wear this to work, you know. But I also get inspired by each one of you, you know, someone, and we're all really good at this, you know, like you'll post on your Instagram, look what I got, or I called our favorite vendor and she sent me this, or, you know, a sample of so and so. And you've been very inspiring, Anne, with, you know, your whole curated, working with Roz, you know, building your wardrobe. And it's really challenged me to rethink and want to make things work together. And I have some of those up there too. Like, oh, I already have fabric left, you know, make it work.
I love that we're inspiring community. So yeah, I was just thinking earlier, you know, I love couture sewing, but I don't get to use all the techniques until I see your work and Carrie's work, Kathy's work, everybody's work. And I'm just like, okay, I need to get back into utilizing more couture sewing techniques. So for inspiring me.
Well, thank you. I will show you, this is just a little simple thing. And I realize you get to a point where once you discover underlining, if you don't have it, it felt like, oh, what's wrong? So I make just a little card when I finish something, like, and that's for this dress that I'm wearing. So I finished it, you know, December 29th. And so I don't know if you can all see this, but how we put it together is it's the wool crepe, and then I have a batiste lining in there, and that has all my pattern information on it. I could use my toile from, right, at least three dresses in here. So that saved a lot of time. But it's literally my roadmap. But having this underlining keeps my dress from wrinkling. It can hold all that structure for those stitches, and then, you know, having a really nice lining that feels wonderful on. I mean, it's like, it's not couture, it's the way you want to feel, right? So
Very
that's,
beautiful pieces. Eileen, Ronnie, great job, Eileen.
oh, thank you. Yep, she helped me with my sleeves. So, you know,
Kathy asked,
every,
make clothes to go with your jewelry because you have no.
absolutely. What do you think this is? Come on.
And then so much power. Eileen's work is very inspiring. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. So yes, we love to always learn something new on here and share and grow with each other. So I know you have some techniques to teach us.
I do. And I want to show you the end product first. So let me just show you what these are. So can everyone see this? It's a padded hanger. And if you can see this, it's the ball end of a snap. And you're going to be like, okay, what's that for? Let me tell you, this was a tremendous discovery. So I'll show you on this way. I can sneak some more garments in. You know, she said cut it off at 5, but I couldn't. So what I was going to show you here is, here's a square neck dress, but for as wide as the neck is, it could fall off the hanger. But look at this. I can carry it now to a garment bag, and that's because I have the snap sewn in on the dress, right? And that helped me carry that. And in this case, because of square neck, I also put this as a bra carrier.
Oh, that's clever.
Mm-hmm. So in this dress, it's doing double duty. Because that's what we talked about in couture. We had form and function. So sometimes we need hardware in there, right, to keep our dress where we want. And so I had not only here at this top, but I also have them here at the corner where this sits. So when I wear it, I not only would use this bra carrier at the top, but also right here at that corner. And that keeps your square neckline perfectly square. So when you turn over, you're not falling out. If anything, you might hear a pop first, but that's your first line of defense, right? Your snap. But it's keeping things where you want. And I found that I took a trip and I opened the garment bag and my dress was sitting pooled at the bottom because it was sliding off. So what I did was, what I'm going to show you today is sewing the ball section, right? The part with the stud on the hanger. And we won't do this today, but you will have this. I know it's dark, you may not see it. And then the socket part is sewn just here at the top of the neckline. And if you're just sewing this to keep it on your hanger, you want this socket part. But on the other dress I used, it was reversed because it was working as that bra carrier. So does that make sense? So see how we've taken something simple, but we're elevating it.
Carrie says, great tip. Amina says, cool trick. Clever. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. So what I'd like to do, so how are we on time?
Yes, if you can start on the technique.
Okay, we can do that. So what we're going to talk about today is sewing on a snap. And I have got a sample ready to go. I'm using big snaps, right, so that we can all see them. So think about this, but because it's a snap, right, it's a piece of hardware, it's utility. So we want to strengthen our thread as best we can whenever we're sewing metal. So let's think about what that might be. That might be a snap, right? That could be for a hook and eye. And in couture, where you're doing everything by hand, it's also to sew your zipper in. You need to do something called wax your thread. So think of Karate Kid, right? Wax on, wax off. So what are we talking about? So we're using beeswax thread. And typically, like for the dress I'm wearing, right, I use my regular dressmaking thread. And I cut a piece about, well, from one arm length to my nose, right? And I do that, and then I pull the thread through. So literally, like this. So we're going to cut this off. And you can get 2 or 3 or 4. And the other thing I want you to think about is when you pull thread off of a spool.
Oh, Sue says, I am loving this.
Okay. Sue, thank you, Sue. We're loving it too, right?
Thanks for joining.
This is to show you that you can still dress up at home for COVID, right? It's this party celebration anytime sewers come together. So I'm going to give you guys some sewing nerd type stuff today, is that when you pull your thread off of the spool, and you may have to do this at home because you may not see that, it actually has a direction. So you want the part that you pull off at the top to be the part that goes in the needle. And the reason that's important is thread has a nap. It has a direction. And if you want to think about what does that like, you could literally pull out a strand of your hair, ding, and if you pull that up, you're going to see it have some kind of wave from the part here, but not on the very end. And if you keep that direction going, you will actually help when you sew have less knots. You know how sometimes you just have this beautiful piece of thread and you kick a stitch and then it's in a rat's nest. So I just say that, but I want you to know that this is your top. Okay. And it may be, like I said, over-engineered. So you pull it through the wax like this. And then you go to your iron. And I'll just bring it here and pretend that we're ironing. If you all can see you see this still? Or I'll hold it up. And you can use a paper towel, right? And you're just using a warm iron. And your significant other, family members may say, are you really this crazy that you're now ironing thread? Just fabric isn't enough. And the answer is, yeah, probably. But what you're doing is you're strengthening your thread. And for all my Couture Sewing buddies, I just want to show you an Eileen Johnson tip. So what I like to do, and I learned this in sewing class, or actually developed this because I was tired of waiting in line for the iron. So I would make 10 or 12 like we've just done and iron them all. And then I made myself a little card. And there's a slit here, and that's my top. So remember, I want it because I want y'all to know that. And I also wrote what the thread color was. And I developed this when I was making a garment for a client, and I was sewing the zipper in, and the print had 6 different colors. So I literally had to have 6 different colors of thread to sew in that zipper, so that it would match. So to do any type of utility sewing, like for a hook and eye or a snap, like we're going to do today, you want double thread. So for my example, I'm going to use this really thick buttonhole twist.
Okay.
which is, I think Ronnie actually found this. It was in her mother's sewing box. Her mother's 90 years old, so she didn't pick this up at Joann's this week, so that you all can see this. But for most other sewings, you have to do double thread. So have I lost everybody? Are
No,
we still here?
there's some new people that just joined, so I just
Okay.
welcome them. And for those that just joined, I have special guest Eileen Johnson, and she is in the process of teaching us how to wax thread. And the purpose of this is to use it on, you said utility notions to help strengthen the thread so that it can help strengthen the stay of the utility.
Absolutely, that stitch. So, and the times we use double thread would be when we're sewing on a snap, when we're sewing on a hook and eye, and whether or not we're sewing well, depending on, you might need it also with a zipper, but particularly with the hook and eye and the snap today. So this is just my little ultra sewing couture nerddom for my sewing sisters, is instead of just putting a single thread in and doubling it, because remember this whole thing I was talking about, nap, now you have thread going in and they're fighting each other. Instead, I recommend that you thread 2 threads through your needle at the same time. And the tool that best helps you with this is one of these. So if Roz is on here and she doesn't carry these, she needs to add these to her inventory. They have them at quilt stores. It's called a Clover double needle. And it makes, I don't know how you eyesight is. Now that I'm on the computer all the time, I don't know that I can see anything anymore. So tools are really important. So so instead of just having a piece of thread doubled, you can kind of see here. Mm-hmm. It's 2 threads like that. And if you're a needlework person, this makes perfect sense, about stripping your thread and keeping everything going in the same direction. And it makes such a prettier stitch because your threads are laying next to each other, going the same direction instead of hodgepodge.
Thanks for doing a little for us, Eileen.
Oh, yeah, well, I'm excited. What can I say? Oh, yeah. Monica Harrington taught us that. It's called the happy dance, right? So we're gonna move to snaps. Do I need to move up?
Yes, please.
I want to make sure you can see this. Okay. So I'll do my best or stand up. So, so if we were doing this on the hanger, this is how I'm using a pin stuck in here just to help you hold on to this. And I have waxed this prior to us getting online. And this is buttonhole twist, so it has a lot more heft, so that I hope that you all can see this. So in order to sew on a snap, we're going to use what's called the buttonhole stitch, or for all of you scouts out there, I like to call it the baby half hitch. You're going to make a loop and come through. Okay. Or if you're a horseman, we're making a stirrup. So in order to, maybe I should stand. That might be easier. Is this better?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, just
better.
Bring a little bit closer. Yeah, there you go.
Like that? Okay. I just need a mark, right? Mr. DeMille, mark, give me my mark. So how I like to
Eileen, sorry. There you go.
Okay, so how I like to start is I have a knot in my thread, but I like to do a little bit of a back stitch. So 2 or 3 stitches, right? Just to ground that. And then this tail, will be cut off. Let me throw it on the floor because someone else will pick it up later. Okay. All right, so you can see that. So it's essentially over one of the holes where I'm going to start.
Can you bring it up, center it a little bit? There you go.
Okay, so I'm putting my needle in. I'm pulling the thread out and see if it was all going 2 threads, we wouldn't have all that snarled mess. But do you see how I have a loop? And I'm putting this through, and that's my first buttonhole stitch. Do you see that?
That's it. Can you guys see it? Yeah.
Okay. So on the side snaps that are on this hanger, you take, there's 4 holes, and it's typically about 3 stitches per hole, right? And you would finish off the same way. So for these bigger snaps, let's see, they have 6 holes. And so let's see how this thick thread does. Trying to keep it all. This is harder than it looks.
Blue dot.
No, actually the stitch is very easy, but to, you know, come across to our audience today. And our, but I have to say, you know, if you've taken so much care and attention on the fit of this garment, on the selection of your fabric, on the basting, the refitting, the finishing, you want these to look just as extraordinary, right? Because that may be, particularly if you're making this for a client, that may be their first entry into that. So let's see, can we see how pretty that stitch is?
I can see it, yes. That's nice. Really nice. And when you go to the next opening, do you go
right, so you would stitch underneath, right? So you're going to travel with your needle. So I'm going to come over here where the pin is, and I'm going to move it, the holder over here. So I've moved underneath the fabric and coming out of the hole as close as I can to the hole, and then I'm going to build those half hitches, those buttonhole stitches across. So let me just take one more. Okay, you see that? So it looks like it's been taking 4 to fill each one. And so I'll keep doing that as I go all the way around. And then to finish this, I'll finish it the same way I started. So we're going to pretend that we're done now. And that is, I'm going to take a stitch underneath the snap in this space between the holes, and literally do just a couple back stitches, which is needle in, thread behind, like that, see? And because this is thick thread, probably 2 is sufficient.
All right. Looks really nice.
Thank you. And then we just, anyway, I would trim that closer, and then all that's covered up.
Nice, nice.
So that's the utility. And if you don't want to do, go ahead.
No, I was just asking, did everyone learn something new today, or before?
Or just remember Another tip you could do if you made a garment for someone that has spaghetti straps, um, you could sew two little ball buttons right here and it would keep those spaghetti straps on here. So if that was something you made for a bride, a nightgown or a camisole, um, that along with a padded hanger and, and if you had dresses like from her the buttons from her wedding dress, and you sewed that, that would be a lovely, lovely bridal shower gift.
Yeah, that would. Thank you so much,
You
Eileen.
are
Thanks
welcome.
for all the tips. That's very helpful because I could see, all the ladies on here who's taken so much time to sew a beautiful garment, and they want to take, the extra step to take care of it. And what a perfect way to do that with, some of the snaps on the hangers. So that's a wonderful tip. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. We want you to be couture start to finish.
Yeah. I'm still.
Nothing's worse than a wire hanger on a beautiful, beautiful garment.
Thank you. Yes, thank you for taking time to show us. So that is, the new, I hope you guys learned something new today, from Eileen. Somebody says, thanks, Eileen. Yes, thank you. Thank you. So I know right now you're getting ready to transition into a new stage of your life. And I was just curious how you are going to take that wardrobe to transition with you.
That is a great question, Anne. So once again, you're ahead of me, but you're causing me to stretch, and I love that. So I'm in the process of, actually, I've just finished 70 hours of classroom training in becoming a coach. I think that's actually an aspiration I've had for a really long time and didn't really quite know that. So I'm really looking forward to completing my training. What I need to do is finish 100 hours of coaching. And so I do have an opportunity to do that through my job, but I also can, right now in my formation stage, take on pro bono, and that's Latin for free, right? You don't have to pay, coaching. So I know you're asking about clothes, but I'm getting my whole message in here. So if that's something you're interested in, you can certainly direct message me at johnson.eileen or contact Anne. And I have some capacity for clients. If I can't fit you in right now, maybe several months from now. But in terms of transitioning, I think all of us have had to make changes, right? Due to COVID, I know I've had to make some changes just to learn how to work at home, and still do a lot of meetings by conference call or Zoom. And what I've noticed on Zoom meetings is it's still important to have, I think, an interesting top, so you can wear a necklace, a scarf, because that makes a little bit more interesting and it still makes me feel wonderful. So if I did anything, okay, one more cheat sheet to show. And I was wearing this picture in that lovely photo that you focused for it. And, tops are always a great fit. So I plan to make a lot more tops. And if you ever want to do it again, I have a great tip on how I change the sleeve and the cuff.
Yeah, if you guys want to Eileen again in the early comment section below, she's got plenty of tips. So as you transition into coaching, I know as a coach, you guys are very, help people focus and bring in a lot of encouragement. So what are some of your favorite quotes or sayings that you would like to share with our creative community today?
Well, my first is from Audrey Hepburn, who, not only do we look at for style inspiration, right? All of her wonderful movies where Hubert Givenchy did her garment. So that just was like, oh, I want to use this. She likes to say, nothing is impossible. So if you write from the word impossible, IMPOSSIBLE, the letters there spell I'm possible. So I love that in terms of, just refiguring, relooking. I'm possible. I am possible.
Thank you. A great one. It's a great one. Did you have another one or?
I do. I would just close out today by saying, do something today that your future self will thank you for. And I want to thank you, Anne, on behalf of my future self, for letting me share a hobby I love, connect with people I met that are just lifelong friends, and talk about what I hope to be, or not what I hope, what I will be in my future self as a coach that sews, a sewing coach, right?
Of course. Thank you for, coming on. Like I said, I know you have to work right after following. So thank you again.
Is that our musical interlude?
My son is starting his orchestra class right now. You guys are
It's time to go.
Right? A little special effect at the end here. So yes, thank you so much. Thank you everyone for coming on today and taking the time to join us. And I hope that you guys, both Eileen and I hope that you guys got to learn something new, something helpful. And, we come on here to keep each other encouraged, inspire each other, and to keep moving forward. So thank you everyone for coming. And I would like to conclude with, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and just, find some time throughout the week to call just 2 people to see how they're doing and to catch up with them. And, just thank you all for joining us, and thank you for being our creative community. So I'd like to conclude, and we'll see you next week. It'll just be me, but the last Friday of every month, I have a special guest. And next month, I'll be having a wedding planner come on to share some planning tips. So again, thank you. If you guys missed.
And now you have a shower gift, right?
I love the violin. Yes. So yeah, my son gets to finish it off for you guys. So again, thank you guys. Take care, and we'll see you guys soon. All right. Thank you, Eileen, again. Bye.
Bye.